Hey folks, welcome back to Around the Yard. As you saw there in the beginning, we're getting the deck over hooked up to the 3500. We're getting ready to pull the case skid steer home from my folks' place. The pond build is as complete as it needs to be for this fall, so we still might get the Mini X over here, but we can do that with the dump trailer or this deck over. So stick around, we're going to get this thing fired up. Got the tracks lined up about as perfect as I can get them. On the ramps, those ramps are 18 inches wide, the tracks are 18 inches wide, so we do have a little bit of play there. Doesn't sound like it, but we're going to crawl this thing straight up here. Hopefully the camera's in a good position. You guys can see the teeter-totter point. Basically right here where the beaver tail meets, that's going to be the most fun part, because the machine's going to want to rock here. That's where these posts down at the bottom come into play. They keep the tail of the truck from coming up and really messing with this thing. So here we go. We're going to back it on nice and easy. Alright, so first things first here, we've got a little bit more wood showing on this side than we do at the front of the machine. So I'm going to get back in there, I'm going to slide to the left just a little bit, that'll straighten this thing out, and then we're going to back up until we're almost to these chains. And I'm going to show you here why in a second. Alright, so right now the machine's sitting directly above the axles. All the weight is on those 4 tires, these posts, and these are probably movable, but there's still a little bit of weight on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to back the skid steer up and straighten it out till we get back to about these chains. Put a lot of tongue weight on the truck at the moment. And then we're going to come back and we're going to pull these pins and raise these back up. Then we're going to pull forward a little ways. In the meantime, we'll pull the ramps up, and then we'll set the bucket down back on top of the ramps. So there's the helper springs on the truck. So right there, those are touching. They're not being Doesn't look like they're really getting used, but they're there. That main spring panel is starting to flatten out. So there's a lot of tongue weight right now. Now what that's good for, I'll walk back here. Now we got room under here. So now these are off the ground. So now pulling these becomes very easy. So that's the process there. Nice and quick and easy. Alright, now we're loaded back up. Now I'm going to jump in the case. Going to run it forward, put a lot more of the weight over the axles of the trailer, and we're going to put the bucket on the top of the ramps here so that can't go anywhere. So ideally the teeth are going to time out, or the bottom of the flat part of the bucket's going to time out here. So alright, that's loading a skid loader by yourself on a deck over. Now let's get it chained down. Alright guys, what do you think of the loading process of the case? Ironically, we got this machine before we had a trailer, or before we owned a trailer to haul it. When I went and found this thing online, I found it through Facebook Marketplace. So I believe this is a 2006 model year. When we purchased it, it had 690 hours on it. We purchased it about 3 years ago, so in 2020 is when we picked this thing up. So it was 14 years old, had 690 hours. The gentleman that we purchased it from was a tree service, but he was kind of getting out of tree service at the time and getting more into the treating of the various diseases of the trees. So the emerald ash borer and the oak wilt and Dutch elm disease and that kind of stuff. You can treat the trees with some chemicals. So that was kind of what he was working towards, and he was doing less land clearing. And so we got a really sweet deal on this thing. We got the tires that came on this. So this Case 445 is a wheel machine. It comes standard with tires. He had the lowering system on it already. I believe he had a 95 XT before this machine, so late 90s machine, and it ran this same set of tracks, or the same system. So he bought another case that would fit the same track pattern, the same dimension, I guess. Let's see, what would that be? Wheelbase. There we go. So he got a machine with similar wheelbase, was able to put the same track system on it and keep using it. Now he flip-flopped between tires and tracks depending on the season. So in the summertime he ran the tracks, in the wintertime he had tires with chains on them, and that's actually how we have it still set up. We haven't put chains on this yet. When we got this, the tracks were probably 90% used up. They were the block pattern, which I believe is the standard that came on these back in the, I don't know, I'm gonna say the early 2000s. So it's kind of like that C pattern that you see on the Bobcats and the other machines, but it's just a full block. So it was alternating blocks. And with those 90% wore out, boy, I was getting stuck in the snow on the littlest bit of gray. There just wasn't any more bite. So we found these zigzag pattern tracks. We put those on 2.5 years ago or something like that, going in. I did one winter with it, then we changed the tracks out, and it made just an absolute world of difference. getting back to the hours. So we've had this thing for 3 more years. I've dug 2 ponds with it. We've done tons of manure. We've done some firewood. We've done all kinds of things. I just looked at the hour meter and we're just shy of 890 hours. We're like 887 or something like that. So in 3 years times, we put 200 hours on. Was that about 60 hours a year, give or take, something like that?